So, folks, you may notice that Brian is going to be a little bit quieter today, and that is because
I'm sick.
and
I have a throat bug.
and also recently we have found out some of his texts leaked to the press. He was trying to set up some flight plans for his boss Eric Adams.
Oh, thank God it was those texts.
Yeah, see, I thought you were going to go the other way. I thought it was going to be like he was having a hot and steamy affair with RFK Jr.
That's exactly.
Oh no! Oh, I didn't even think about that.
They were having the sexiest FaceTime calls.
They sure were. They sure were.
And those FaceTime calls, we thought no one would ever find out because we were hosting them on a Turkish server.
And here's the thing, too, right? Everyone asks, where did Brian learn his fantastic new fucking skills? And he learned his fantastic new fucking skills with Nuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really funny how people just don't think about data protection at all.
No.
Like the importance of, if you're going to have a conversation or whatever where you're saying something that is potentially criminal, don't put it in plain text.
Yes.
Have those conversations in person.
No, Josh.
I'm not saying you should commit crimes. I'm just saying if you're going to commit a crime, do it right.
Look, do it in person, or if you want to make sure no one will ever hear it, do it on a podcast.
So many possible worlds, but we got this one. So many possible worlds, but we got this one.
Welcome to the Worst of All Possible Worlds, the first and only podcast where we commit a crime every week.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the worst of all possible Joshes.
I'm the worst of all possible AJs.
And I'm the worst of all possible Brians. That is a really good hook.
Isn't
That's
it?
a really good hook for a pod. Like,
Yeah,
just do
every
a
week
crime
we do a
week.
minor crime of
What's it
some
going to
kind.
be? You'll find out.
Yeah. And now the series finale, murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we are here today to talk a little bit about murder, I guess, because
in a sense.
we are here to talk about the perfectly normal children's series, Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared.
Yeah,
or,
we've been doing a lot of children's programming lately, and this is definitely a children's program.
It's also the start of the spoopy season, so we thought we'd cover something a little bit spoopy. And also, I believe that this series answers the question, what would AJ do if he had a budget?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Also, I just thought, like, sometime, maybe next October, we should cover the Music Man for Shapoopy season.
That girl is hard to get, isn't she?
Yeah, this pod, though, very easy to get.
It's really difficult. With how tall she is, you'd think it would be easier, right? Her head is in the clouds, her
Right?
feet are on the ground.
Oh, I
No.
see. I thought you were just like you like had a net of some kind and were trying to capture this very tall woman.
Well, yeah. She's hard to get. But you can trap her in your net.
But you can trap her in your net.
So we my experience with
Yeah.
Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared is that I came across it because of game theory, which I think is actually, how a lot
Oh,
of
you-
people discovered
wow.
this thing.
Wait,
So
so
you said that out loud. You admitted to this.
I
I don't-
admit that
Much
to
like our
that.
many weekly crimes.
I don't
Yes.
actually know what game theory is other than the thing that it's time for.
Yes,
in
yes.
that famous
That's
Twitter
exactly
thread.
it,
But
yeah.
I don't know what is game theory.
It was hosted once upon a time by this guy named Matt Pat. He has since retired because he went to Scott Cawthon's house and he was invited inside
AJ,
for
you
tea.
might as well be speaking Turkish with Josh.
Yeah,
here.
no, I
Right.
Right. Like,
Scott
you
Cawthon
at least
is
have
the
to give
creator-
him some gold first.
or upgrade my flight, maybe. I don't know.
yeah.
Super, as they say.
Yeah, fly him to Easter Island on your Turkish Airlines.
Scott Cawthon is the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's and the Five Nights at Freddy's
okay.
series in general. I don't know if he is still writing for it. I don't think so, though.
The game theorists are, AJ, a YouTube channel.
Yes.
Should have led with that.
Probably should have led with that. The Game Theorist, it is a YouTube channel that also now incorporates, I think, fashion theory, film theory, and food theory. So
And none of this is actual theory. None of this
No.
is like
Okay.
philosophical. None of this is what Eric Garland was going on
Okay.
about.
It's
This is
mostly, it's just like finding like stuff in the background of things and analyzing games through like it used to be more through like a scientific lens, and then it just became, as the Five Nights at Freddy's videos sort of exploded, more about the lore. lore and figuring out the lore and the background of things.
And so they brought in this Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. They did a deep dive into it, I'm assuming?
Yes, on the original, for the original web series.
The web series,
they did a deep dive into it, and it was...
They solved it.
They solved it. They did it. They got to the bottom of it.
Okay, well, great.
And we're going to talk about that sort of approach to analyzing this particular show, because I it's not that I disagree with it, but I think it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of missing the forest for the trees a little bit. Like, you can get into the stuff in the background of the show because it is so absurdly detailed, but it misses, I think, the greater themes of it and what it and how it makes you feel and what it's really going for. So that's how I came across this, but you both found it by other means, correct? Like, you had watched the original web series at one time.
I don't remember if I had watched the whole web series or not. I don't think I did. Because when we put this up, when we were starting to put this episode together, obviously I went back and rewatched it.
Yeah.
There were a couple things that I did remember. Digital style was one of them.
How can you forget?
How we all love our king. Like, just the repetition beats,
Our
I think,
king.
were the thing that stuck in my head.
Yeah.
I had heard that it was like, ooh, really creepy, and it's kind of not. Like, that's not really the point, I don't think.
No, it's visceral. Like, it is gory, and there's a lot of goo in
even
it.
the gore was like, I had been expecting something more along the lines, like to make a poll into something older internet. I was expecting something more like Happy Tree Friends, maybe.
Oh,
with like
sure.
really over the top violence, and it's
So
not
that it's
that
comical
either.
Yeah. Because the violence in it isn't particularly funny. There's a couple of moments that are used as like punchlines, but for the most part, the violence is used to evoke like a mood. It feels like just a really hyper violent David Lynch kind of vibe that they're going for.
It's sort of like when you see them spitting the Garmin Bozia out of their mouth in a Fire Walk with Me or something.
Right. Yeah. It is used more for mood than it is for shock value, I would argue. The way that the creators talk about it, it seems like they want you to walk away being like, what the fuck was that? What nightmare did I stumble into?
Well, and I think the FNAF point of comparison is interesting, too, because it is something that I think is very popular as sort of a first scary thing you might have seen as a kid. Like, this is something that is accessible, I think, to, 12-year-olds. And it's the kind of thing where I imagine that if you came across this as a 12-year-old, it would really blow your fucking mind.
Yeah. I think that the reason I sort of glommed onto it was that it not only matched my aesthetic taste, but it was also a type of horror that I could engage with because there weren't jump scares in it. And I love horror as a genre because I love mysteries, and most horror at its core is just a mystery. What is this thing chasing me? Why is it chasing me? What sort of ancient evil did I accidentally, provoke? And this has all of that mystery, but with none of the loud noises that make my brain scream. And I think that's why I imprinted on it so hard, and why it fundamentally influences my work even to this day. The story of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared begins at Kingston University in 2010 when Joe Pelling and Baker Terry, who were two animation students at the time, met Becky Sloan, who was a fine art student. They hit it off quickly, and like many college students, decided to start an art collective called This Is It! Unlike most art collectives, this one didn't implode after 6 months.
Where's Kingston University? This is not Jamaica. I'm assuming.
Kingston upon Thames.
Oh, okay. So it's in London?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Also, listeners, as we go on to talk about Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, there's a lot of stuff in this that would immediately light up a light bulb in a British person's mind. We are three Americans talking about this show, so there will be references in here that we just do not fully understand.
But it's still instantly recognizable as like children's TV. It has, I think it has a lot. I mean, I haven't watched a whole ton of British children's television, but it's usually a little bit more subdued.
Yeah.
And American children's television usually has a bit more pep and energy to it.
With the obvious exception of Mr. Blobby, who's just a horror show. And the less
is
we
Mr.
talk about
Blobby
him,
for
the better.
children?
Yeah. Have you not seen the music video of his theme song where all the children are like worshiping him?
Yeah, I didn't know that necessarily meant it was for children.
It's for kids, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
but
dear.
AJ, do you know what kind of stuff This Is It was doing before Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared?
The collective itself? No.
Yeah, did they do any theater or anything? Or
no,
because they feel like they should have been at Edinburgh or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I couldn't find anything about any sort of theater experience. They were fine arts people. They were animation students and fine arts people, which is why so many episodes of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared just have like sequences that are fully animated as opposed to just having the puppets and things.
It's a lot of different styles. And so their first
Digital
styles.
Yeah. And so their first YouTube video was something called Bad Things That Could Happen, which is it's not a horror thing. There's one part of it that's kind of gruesome, but it all keeps a consistent style, digital style.
Digital style.
Digital dancing. That's fun.
This is fun.
But instead of felt, their whole thing in Bad Things That Could Happen was cardboard. Everything is like made out of cardboard.
Okay.
Right.
So Bad Things That Can Happen is just this really clever little video where you see this sort of montage of different things. You're kind of passing by each one, and then you see each event progress. So one is people assembling a sandwich. You've got your cardboard lettuce, your cardboard tomatoes, your cardboard bread, and then they just set it down on a plate. Another one is a mousetrap that's getting primed. And everything is like people in costumes, people in like white void suits. The mousetrap is just two people in a box and their heads are sticking out.
Yeah, they don't make a huge effort to hide anybody, right?
No. Sometimes they have people in a thing that doesn't need a person in it. Like there's a matchbox that does not move and does not do anything, but it has a face, and the face responds to the disaster that's happening.
The one that really is viscerally very strange to me is there's a giant pencil, and the lead at the end is just two
hands in black
that are
gloves.
with black gloves that just sort of wiggle, and then like the lines start drawing on the page, and you're just like, it's very unsettling and strange.
The way that they draw it is it's the title of the video, Bad Things That Could Happen, but it's written in black and it's covered with some sort of white cover, and so the hands are just sort of pulling it away like a big long spagoot.
Oh,
and
cool.
So like the sandwich, when it's let out, it eventually attracts a couple of flies. Those flies bring germs. The germs start to multiply. They have a little like magnifying glass, and you see a bunch of people dressed as germs dancing around. The mouse trap eventually snaps on a rat and splits its head open.
Okay. So I'm already noticing then a lot of sort of common themes here. This like emphasis on gore and body horror, but more as an exclamation point than as a through line, I guess.
Yeah.
There's one where it's like a match lights a cigarette and then just starts lighting the rest of the room on fire. And again, the fires are just little hands that are sticking out of the table that they've made for their set. And there's a lot of like use of streamers and air, using air to blow certain things around. There's a nail that goes into a pipe and it sprays a bunch of blue streamers.
Well, that's another thing too that comes up a lot in Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared is the use of practical effects.
Yeah.
In low budget practical effects.
Yeah, and visibly low budget, it's just honestly, I think Bad Things That Could Happen is more visually creative than even, or it sparks something in my brain that even Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared does not. And
it's very
my favorite
clean.
of the bad things that could happen is they crack open an egg, like a soft-boiled egg, but then the egg just starts floating around
like
in the room.
Space.
Like it's like everything else is like a plausible thing. A mousetrap kills a mouse. A match lights some other stuff on fire. Sometimes your egg is a ghost.
Yeah, that happened to me last week.
It's bouncing around your room like the DVD video logo.
It hits the corner. I clap.
It takes 50 bounces.
It takes me 50 bounces. So they get to work on the first episode.
I didn't know this about you.
You struck me as more of a 49 guy.
You struck me as more of a 69 guy.
Nice! So they get to work on the first episode with Becky first designing Yellow Guy and then building a set to sort of match that aesthetic. And it's so cool to hear how they describe the process of where the web series like goes, and it's all like yes-anding things. So they first they build Yellow Guy, and they're like, okay, so what kind of world does Yellow Guy live in? Let's design the world around him. It's like, okay, what kind of friends would he have? And then that's where you start to get Red Guy, and you get Green Duck, who in the first episode is looks more like a crow. I don't know. They
Yeah, a
do
little
like
bit.
a huge major redesign on his character when they go on from Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared 2 through 6. But for the topic that they wanted to cover, they all just got out of art school. So why not talk about the bullshit process of trying to objectively grade art?
Absolutely.
We
This is like,
get creativity, baby.
do you ever play the game Art School?
No.
It's a funny little game where you just have to keep drawing shit in this fucking app throughout the. I mean, you just have to keep drawing and keep drawing and keep drawing, and at some point you're just like, I'm just drawing nonsense.
Is this
point
art
just to get it
school
done.
with a Q?
Yes, I think so.
What?
Okay.
It's such a silly
Where is
little
the
game.
Q?
Huh.
Like
It's-
instead of CH.
It's
Oh.
Art SQOOL. Yeah.
Oh, I hate that. Oh,
Apparently, it
Oh.
received generally unfavorable reviews.
I can see why.
Criticism focused on the game's lack of depth and a randomized grading system, but I think that's the point.
That's the point.
Like they missed
oh
the
my
point.
God. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
It becomes a drudgery. It's definitely someone being like, man, this shit really killed me.
Yeah.
Like I was having a good time and then it was just too much. And that's what this first Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared feels like.
the process of actually making it was also kind of a nightmare. The fire department had to be called at one point because
Oh,
they
wow.
set the roof on fire with one of their
Yeah.
lights.
There are a
And
bunch of little hands painted orange sticking out of the roof.
Can you imagine if that's like you enter into the space and then everything becomes "Don't hug me, I'm scared" rules?
I mean, I
like they're
can.
holding a hose and it's just a guy with a little hat on. But yeah, no.
I'm a hose. I put out the fires.
But they tell this great story of how the firemen showed up on set and they just saw raw meat everywhere. And Becky Sloan just trying to wave the smoke away from the fire alarm with a tablecloth covered in blood.
Well, I was going to say it's not so raw now. Now it's
No.
nicely grilled, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's
It's a good
cooking.
brisket.
Woohoo! It's unseasoned though. That would be a nightmare.
Unseasoned meat.
You
that's
know
how
what?
they like it
Honestly,
over there.
that's British cuisine. You're right,
You,
Brian.
you
That's
dip it in
100%.
some of the Thames water and you suck it down.
Ooh, it tastes like Hep B. So everyone. So on July 29th, 2011, they released Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared to their YouTube channel. And it explodes
Yeah.
right from the get-go.
Nothing goes viral anymore. This went viral. Like, this was message boards still existed back then. I remember being on the Broadway World message board and this thing
did that-
popped up and the off-topic board.
Really?
And people were like, holy. I feel like that there was a sort of style, digital style, digital dancing. Hey, this is fun.
Hey, it's fun.
Where, you remember Dumb Ways to Die?
Yeah.
That one
Yeah.
also really caught on. I can't think of like the other ones right now, but like, yeah, it was just one of those things that made the rounds and everyone was like, wow, this is fucking cool. And then, yeah, I showed it to my friends. So I was there on the ground floor, but like, yeah, I saw it when it went viral. That thing has like what, 78 million views now
Yeah.
in 2024. Don't know what it had, within its first year, but it was
And people
crazy.
are still discovering it. Like there are still comments on that thing from like, the last couple weeks that people are, still finding this very weird piece of media. Baker Terry describes it as, this is an exact quote from Baker Terry. It's always had that air of outsider art, hasn't it? That someone discovered it in someone's recycling bin after they've been found dead. And it does have that sort of cursed quality. I'd imagine that there is a universe where Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared became sort of like a urban legend or a creepypasta and like, check out this crazy kid show
Absolutely.
that they canceled from the BBC that no one ever saw. It aired once or whatever. But to their credit, they didn't go down that route. They wanted to make this into its own little series, and they were thankfully able to do that because they brought on Blink Industries to help produce the follow-up, and they brought on these producers, James Stevenson Breton, Hugo Donkin, and Charlie Perkins, who would stay on for the rest of the series from that point forward.
And I guess I was just curious. I was like, okay, what Blink Studios, like what all have they done? They're actually a diversified studio now. They do entertainment, animation, music video, and advertising. And
Oh, shit.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, they did one of those fucking John Lewis commercials.
The Politician?
No. This is something that our British listeners will know
yes.
about.
John
It's-
Lewis is famous for its like commercials.
Yeah.
Right? Like Geico is here or SoftBank in Japan.
The reason that I know about this is that I went on Trash Future one time, and there was somebody last year who got really, really mad at the Marks and Spencer's commercial. It's because like John Lewis and Marks and Spencer are the two big ones that do the annual Christmas commercial, and so
wow.
I think I know of it because like it was in a Charlie Brooker screen wipe once or something.
But this one was apparently called The Bear and the Hare.
Okay.
Nice.
It's very cute. There's
one of them
bear.
wanted his hat back and then ate the hair at the end. Yeah. So Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared 2 releases, and they realize that they're going to need more money if they're going to actually do this thing. So they do a Kickstarter to shoot episodes 3 through 6, and it's notable for raising over £100,000 and for bringing on a YouTuber named Tom Ska as an executive producer.
Not Tom Scott. Want to be very clear about
very
that.
clear.
Tom
Ska.
S-K-A.
He does the same videos, but he just cuts off one consonant at the end of every sentence. I'm at the Large Hadron Collide.
So the series is funded. They're able to do episodes 3 through 6, and it's gets a huge bump when Matt Pat himself from Game Theory decides to cover it, and it has this interesting dimension to it because it's about making art in the age of the internet in a very interesting way. And we have this quote here from the creators, and I thought we could all read that out. The interviewer asks, "You have an incredibly loyal fan base, which is very dedicated to spotting Easter eggs in the series, some of which you may not even have intended. Is it hard to keep things secret?"
It's amazing that the show has this big online following and people dissect it to such an extent. That's exciting for us because we get to play with it. We have to be careful about what we post, sure, but it means that we can put a lot of detail in, and we know that they'll appreciate it.
Yeah, I think that our creative process, or whatever you want to call it, has evolved over the years with the intensifying of the audience engagement and reaction. So we feed off of that as much as they feed off of whatever it is that we're putting out there.
It's a feedback loop. It's definitely fun to play around with, and the new series is riddled with Easter eggs that new fans may not understand, but existing fans who've seen the YouTube series would be able to pick up on.
Yeah, one of the three creators of the show is actually a puppet.
Yeah, is actually
Greenberg.
Is actually Duck. So my question for you both, like, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Is it just kind of the way that art has to be these days, to be making it in response to people like dissecting it to the bone?
I think it is what it is. You know, I will say personally, I fucking hate this shit. This is not how I've ever engaged with media. I'm like, I want you to tell me a story in the way that you want to tell it. Right. And then I will receive it and I will have my response to it. And maybe I'll align with what you're putting down or maybe not. But I don't want to impose my own creative preference on somebody else's process.
Right.
To me, that feels like a violation of what the whole point of making art is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, I've also just never really been into the whole like fan forum speculation, whatever. It's like, if I predict something correctly, great. If I don't, then also great. Like, I don't know. It's just, I don't take an active role in consuming media in that way. It's just not for me.
Another thing to note here is that they're not just making the Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared videos. They're also making teasers.
Right.
And those teasers have things that are not even in the main video, right?
Yeah.
So people are baking. You know, they're taking these things and they're trying to whip up, okay, why do we see the TV studio now, or why do we see this space over here, right? There are all these sort of modal realities that exist within Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, and people want that all to make sense, right? They want it to figure out like which one is the dream of which character at this level, at this level, at this level, at this level.
Yeah, how deep does the iceberg go, to speak in modern YouTube parlance?
And I'm just like, I don't fucking care. I really don't. Like, just let it wash over me. I'm fine. I don't need to know.
Yeah, and I think there is something, too, about the lostification of media consumption, because I'm guilty of this too all the time. That show trained you to look in the background for the numbers, or to look for like any sort of like connection between everyone. Like it really focused on doing that, so you could probably guess a couple of the twists if you were paying attention, right? That's the sort of joy of any mystery series.
Yeah.
But I think what ended up happening is growing up with that show and having it dominate pop culture in the way that it did, you suddenly have this entire generation of people that are always looking in the background for answers and can sometimes miss what the show is screaming at them in the face.
But this does appeal to you on some level, doesn't it, AJ?
Oh, absolutely.
You like to go and unlock the puzzle box.
Yeah, no, I do. I love to unlock the puzzle box. I like to get really deep into the puzzle box. I like to root around in there. I like to tickle the ivories.
Come on.
And
illegal. You can't be buying ivory these days.
Well, that's the crime for this episode. That's what we're guilty of.
On this episode, we're going off to the Sahara to tickle some elephants, folks. Stay tuned.
Yes, we're not doing anything else to the elephants.
That's the thing. It's not a crime.
We'll be very clear.
We're tickling the ivories. We're not taking them away. We're just walking up to the elephants.
Hey, buddy.
And let me tell you, that's an experience they'll never forget.
So many possible.
Hey there, you are listening to a preview of a premium episode of The Worst of All Possible Worlds. If you'd like to listen to the rest of this, head on over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/worstofall. And you can listen to not only the rest of this episode, but our entire backlog of premium episodes, bonus episodes, and if you subscribe at the $10 tier, you will get an extra episode of the podcast every single month. Again, that is patreon.com/worstofall. Hope to see you there.